our account is still outstanding. Cause this country was built on slavery, which means slaves built this country. And we demand our 40 acres and a mule. About that! You can keep the mule.
Keep the 40.
We're taking our freedom.
Hi everybody, welcome back to our channel. Thank you for the well wishes for my mom. She is doing better, so that's all good. Recovery is going very well, appreciate that. And hopefully the SD card situation is okay. You never know until we get to editing, but it looks like it's okay for right now. So Black History Month is here, and Disney is apparently kicking off with this Proud Family thing. Let's watch this real quick. The Proud Family, it's called, on the Disney Channel. It's a mess, and I hate it so much.
It's an old show.
Cause
it's an old cartoon that I think they brought out in 2000.
Right.
And it was taken off, and now they brought it back, and it's called Proud Family. I guess the family's called Proud. That's their name. And anyway,
okay.
And it's called Louder and Prouder. So
they chose to release this, I guess, during Black History, because it's Black History Month. So, yeah, this is a problem, y'all. Okay, let's just watch it.
This country was built on slavery, which means slaves built this country. Tilled this land from sea to sea to sea. First it was rice, tobacco, sugar cane. Then Whitney did his thing and cotton became king. And we were its soldiers, 4 million strong, fighting for America's freedoms, even though we remained America's slaves. Built this country. The descendants of slaves continue to build it. Slaves built this country. And we, the descendants of slaves in America, have earned reparations for their suffering. And continue to earn reparations every moment we spend submerged in the systemic prejudice, racism, and white supremacy that America was founded with and still has not atoned for. Slaves built this country. Not only field hands, but carpenters, masons, blacksmiths, musicians, inventors built cities from Jamestown to New Orleans to Banneker, Washington. 40 acres and a mule. We'll take the 40 acres, keep the mule. We made your families rich. From the southern plantation heirs to the northern bankers to the New England ship owners, the founding fathers, former presidents, current senators,
The Illuminati, the New World Order.
slaves built this country. We had Tubman, Turner,
Frederick D.
Didn't they say Lincoln freed the slaves?
But slaves were men.
And women. And only we can free ourselves. Emancipation is not freedom. Jim Crow, segregation, redlining, public schools, feeding private prisons, where we become slaves again. As we celebrate Juneteenth for the umpteenth time, our account is still outstanding. Cause this country was built on slavery, which means slaves built this country. And we demand our 40 acres and a mule. About that! You can keep the mule.
Keep the 40.
We're taking our freedom.
What's the, I mean, this is for kids, right?
to Disney.
You know, this is how they plant the seed, you guys. I mean, I think the seed's been planted a long time ago. But it's like they just want to start you off oppressed, feeling oppressed. That they would put it in for children that are very young, to just, at the beginning of their formative years, this is what they get to see, that the country is profoundly racist. This is so what is this child going to go through in life? This child's going to go through immediately believing that they are oppressed, less than, and different, not American.
Yeah.
This is to me, I just,
Not only is the faces they make them make.
yeah,
They're
right.
sad, like frowny faces.
Yeah.
Where they look kind of oppressed.
Right.
Like they're slaves.
And have a little bit of anger
And
in them.
A little bit of anger.
First
First of all, they're all girls. Again.
There's one boy, little boy in there.
And they do bring up the women's movement.
Yeah.
And that whole situation. I don't know how that has anything to do with
It does,
slaves.
crept that in.
You know what I mean? But the thing that I don't like about this is slavery is American history. And I think every child should know. I knew about slavery. I don't understand why we're pretending like kids don't know about slavery. What I have a problem with is them not telling the true story
yes.
of slavery.
The entirety
You know what I mean?
of the story.
Knowing that Africans enslaved each other, and the reason why slaves were in this country is because they sold they sold their own people, or different tribes sold each other to colonizers to bring to this country and other countries. I also don't want to talk about the fact that there were black slave owners in America.
Yeah. They don't want to. That's an inconvenient truth right there. That black slave owner thing. I
have a problem with not the slave. I don't have a problem with the history part of it. I have a problem with only talking about a part of the history where it makes us look like, like we had no part in it at all. Period. We were just brought over here, and like we didn't profit. Also, I think Brandon Tatum bring up the guy that I forget his name. I wish I had wrote it down.
What's his name? Johnson. Here, I'll find it.
I just was watching it the other day. Anthony Johnson, who was the first slave owner to make sure that slaves was a lifetime thing.
He even went to court.
Because before slavery was, before you saw 400 years of slavery, slavery was, even white people were slaves.
Yeah.
Slavery was mostly like a debtor's prison. You worked for people for a certain amount of years, and then you paid your debt off through slavery.
Right.
And then you were let go.
Right.
And then you could also own land. But this guy made it so that he wanted slavery he wanted lifetime slavery where they never could be released.
So he went to court, you guys.
This was a black man.
Wait, he went to court.
Right.
To get this passed.
In the 1600s.
A black man trying to make sure slavery stays on forever.
Yeah, I mean, and so I think Bill Maher was right when he said anybody who could afford a slave had one, including black people.
Right. Yes.
And I think that we don't want to tell, for some reason, I feel like all of these people that perpetuate this narrative that black people are oppressed and white people are the oppressors, they don't ever want to talk about the fact that we did have a hand in that.
Right.
And that most of the slavery that goes on today, the slave owners are black and brown people.
Right. It's true.
You know what I mean? And I just think that we just don't, for some reason, just want to pretend like that part didn't exist, but only white people created slavery. They also don't want to talk about the fact that the West was the first to outlaw. So white people were the first in the West to outlaw slavery in its entirety. They were the first. You know what I mean? They don't want to talk about the fact that Union soldiers did die for slaves. Now, I'm not saying that even Union soldiers liked black people. I'm not saying that, but you can't pretend like a lot of white people didn't die in that war.
Well, that's the thing. That's the inconvenient truth part that people don't want to look at, and that's what makes me upset about this whole thing. I just don't like that we're not telling the entire story. That's what makes me mad about the slave talk. This is why I don't like the slave talk in this way. If we talk about it, it's fine because you have to talk about history. I get that. I'm talking about all history, but it's that we leave out the parts that to connect the dots. Well, white people weren't just readily going into Africa and just pulling. You understand they had to have they had to have in some way collude with Africans in order to make that happen.
Yeah, the movie Roots was a lie. White people didn't run into the jungle and start grabbing black people. Yeah, that wasn't untrue. Yeah, you know what I mean. They couldn't even go in the area. A lot of people say it was because of disease. Yeah, a lot of slave catchers they died before they even got back to America. Right, because of disease. Yes, that they weren't, that they got from the slaves that were on that continent. So a lot of them didn't even, go, or none of them. They didn't go into that part of Africa. Right. And black people sold their own. Africans sold Africans for things as little as liquor. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, and then they kept some for themselves.
There was already slavery anyways within the African community. There was already slavery anyway.
Now, if you're going to tell that story, then that's fine. But they don't want to tell that story because then it would mess up reparations. Yeah. The idea of getting reparations, and then politicians, particularly left-leaning, politicians don't like it because then they can't bait us into feelings. Yeah. About that, and they're always promising reparations and things like that.
So they can't really talk about the black slavery part, blacks owning slaves, because it's going to mess up their whole reparation talk. Because that we're supposed to be oppressed by white people. So what do you do when the truth comes out, which we all know is that there were some black slave owners? What do we do? What do we do? There were hundreds of them, and then even like we were saying in the beginning that white people were not readily just going into Africa pulling black people. Wasn't that the roots? That roots, get that out of your head for a minute. That's not what happened. They would have to be going along with Africans in order to make that happen. But they don't want to talk about that part because in the reparation talk. Now I have a problem with reparations anyways. I mean, I do. I don't know we should be handing out black people, you know, just money when, you know, statistics are showing that we don't even know how to spend money right.
Yeah.
We're not even spending money the correct way. So I don't know if that's even a solution. What is that going to do? What's reparations supposed to do? Just say I'm sorry? Is that a I'm sorry?
Well, they say it's supposed to even out the playing field because white people have much more wealth than we do. But, you know, you also have to see how it is that we actually spend our money. You know what I mean? Black people also are the highest spenders.
Yeah.
Not so much the highest makers.
Yeah, and
we are the highest spenders.
We're not the highest owners at all. So
right. So I mean, even if you got reparations, I remember I was watching a panel. I think one of Jason Whitlock's panel people. I think it was Delano Squires. He was on. Him and Shamika Michelle were on a panel where they were debating. Black conservatives were debating black liberals.
Right.
And Delano said, I don't believe in reparations, but I almost wish we would get it. Yeah. Because the instant we get it and we lose it due to our poor spending habits and not understanding money, like what happens to like people who win the lottery, they get all these millions and millions of dollars and they lose it in 3 years because they don't understand money. He was just like, then you know what would happen? We would never be able to get it again. Yeah. And then we'd be mad at ourselves because
we didn't do it right.
You know, it's not money does not solve everything, you know what I mean? And he's just like, so he said, I almost wish we could get it so we could see that really was never the answer anyway. Yeah. You know what I mean?
But if I was, you know, if I were to just like be in the head of a slave and just think about what they would be thinking for the future of black people in this country, I would think they're first and foremost, what they would say is, hold your belief in God and keep your family together. Family together, because their families were ripped apart by slave owners a lot. But you know that I would think that would be what it would be on the top of their mind. Not necessarily just getting money, because when you hold your family together and the community, black community together, and you work together like every other race of people, you can make wealth just by having a sense of community. You know, and I think black people don't have a sense of community like other ethnicities, other races. And so I don't think that the first thing on their minds would be, oh yeah, you know, reparations. I don't know if that would be it. I think it would just be make sure that you're sticking together, you're creating your own wealth, you know? And we were doing that. In Jim Crow, we were building and we were owning and we were in when Jim Crow was active.
Say that even maybe Jim Crow helped us in a weird way because we weren't allowed to hang in white spaces, we created it ourselves. Right. You know what I mean? And therefore we created our, you know, like again, you know, Black Wall Street was not just in Tulsa. Right. It was kind of everywhere because you had to. Right. I mean, you can't just have like one little area.
No.
Where, you know what I mean? We had lots of things. Our own bus lines. We had our own barbershops.
Other cities were doing that.
You know, it wasn't until after everything had been integrated that things started to fall apart for us because, you know, again, we rely on the government. You know, we think the government's going to come in and save us. You know, but the thing is like, what I don't like about this is that I feel like they're trying to usher in a new victim class or a new generation full of victims.
And they're doing that.
Sit there and be activists for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? And complain and be upset and be upset about something you're not really enduring. You know what I mean? You live in one of the best countries in the world to live if you're black. Yeah. So to me, you know, it would, with all the freedom that we do have while we have it, you know what I mean? It would be much, to me, better to talk about building wealth in a way of keeping your families together.
That's what I'm saying.
Building businesses and things like that, because that to me is real wealth. You know what I mean? When you understand money, and that is how you understand money, when you have to make it yourself. Right. You know what I mean? You treat things differently when it's, you know, you treat things you treat things differently when you have to earn it than more than when someone's giving it to you. This is why people blow through their tax checks.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it is their money, but because it's just given to them, all of a sudden people frivolously just take that money
and then go have parties and buy clothes and whatever they have, you know. And it's like, no, you're supposed to be doing something with it.
This is why so many people who win the lottery and they lose it all. They lose all that money in like a matter of 5 or 6 years because they don't understand understand money. And to understand money is an education.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's to learn to build. And the way you learn that is through your parents, but also through building your own business.
Yeah.
And understanding wealth gradually. You know what I mean? But just to be giving people money and thinking that reparations is about to save the black community, that's not going to save the black community.
No, because our problem in the black community is deeper. It's the core of our problem is much deeper than just any money, reparations, or anything. The core of our problem is family structure, nuclear structure is gone. Sense of community is gone. Belief in God is gone. Modesty is gone. We've lost all the integrity. All these things are gone. That has nothing to do with how much money you make. And then you wanted to go ahead and include money. We stopped starting businesses. We stopped all of that stuff. So if you want to include the money part, yeah, it's there too. But we got to start with the real problem. It's not money. The real problem is not money. We would have already created money if we were doing like they were doing in the 40s, 50s, 60s, where the black communities stuck together as communities, bought their own within their own. And just sporadically went outside of the black community to buy other stuff. You know what I mean? But if we don't have that, we really don't have anything. So you can go ahead and get your little reparations if you want to. By the way, it might be kind of little. I've heard someone say, "Oh yeah, they're supposed to be giving us $5,000 a month." I'm like, what are you talking about? So where'd you get that figure? See, people are thinking. See what I'm saying? Like, we're not even thinking logically.
Right.
They're not going to give you. They're not going to give every black individual. And then how would they even break that up? How would the descendants of slaves? Okay, so we would have to go. You would have to know a direct descendant. So that they know the second part about this that really I have a big issue with, especially with this video, is how they frame the woman of like the girls being the leaders. And then they had a little boy in there, but in the back they gave him like a high-pitched voice. He's just kind of in the back of these. Every once in a while they show him, push him up, but the rest of those are girls. You almost wouldn't even know that was a boy.
It's like he's not even there.
But see, they're even getting that in there. They're even trying to push the matriarchal, like, narrative with that in there too. They're putting everything in there. Oppression, girls are leading, white people are out to get you.
Like on a personal note, I think, like I said, as a person, I think that in general, black people, we need to understand forgiveness also.
Yeah, I understand.
You know what I mean? In my personal life, holding grudges, particularly grudges we didn't really go through.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah. But holding grudges in general, it's like having, being mad at a boyfriend that hurt you 20 years ago.
Right.
And you're still mad. You know what I mean? At some point, you have to learn to forgive and move on. You know what I mean? Because that to me saves your life.
Right.
If you're perpetually angry at something that you really didn't experience, then what you're doing is wasting your time pumping your fist in the air and being mad at something that, what if you never get reparations?
Right, then what?
You know what I mean? Which it looks like you won't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But even if you do get reparations, well, are you telling me there's really isn't a price on slaves? What they had to endure.
Right.
You mean you're gonna give me a dollar value on someone?
Yeah.
There are slaves who died. Most of the slaves lived and died slaves.
Right.
They came into this world that way and they left this world that way. And you mean to tell me that there is no price on that?
There's not.
There's none. There is no price on people, and I don't even feel comfortable getting paid.
It's a little it's a little
you know
weird.
what I mean?
Yeah.
What I owe those people gave me freedom because what they endured in this country. I'm an American. I feel like I'm living in a very free country, and I can do what I really want to do. You know what I mean? And it hadn't been, I hate to say, if it hadn't been for that part of history, which is terrible, but they did pay they gave me reparations because now I'm in a country where I'm free.
I can call myself an American.
I'm not one of these people in these other countries trying to leave their country to get to America.
I'm privileged because I'm in the country.
You know what I mean? I'm here and I can do that. And the only people who don't understand that to me is Black Americans. Everybody else who comes to this country as people who are sneaking in the southern border, trying to get in. Right. And they know they can be deported and they all understand what it means to be on this land and this soil. We just don't seem to understand that. Everybody here was waiting on like a lotto to get called. We work for people that, we know their story. We work for people who had to leave his wife to come here and his family.
They, one by one,
everybody. And he made a success of his life. You know what I mean? And this is my point. It's like Africans that come here, they come here and start owning business and stuff. You know why? Because they're not like oppressed by our media. Yeah. They're not, they know what it means to not live in America. So when they come here and take advantage of it.
But I just had a conversation the other night with a guy, and as a guest where we work, and he was saying, he was like, you know, the white people are really doing it. They've done a number on us for so many years, and we can't get a leg up, and you know, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not with that. I'm like, yeah, I don't go with the impression stuff, sir. Like, I'm not into the I feel sorry. And I asked him, I said, okay, so how long are we supposed to feel oppressed? So how long are white people supposed to...
How many more presidents are we supposed to have?
So what are we supposed to do? So how long, what is it going to take for you not to make that statement any longer? Because I told him, I said, you are one of many black people that talk like this. I was like, and I'm just saying, when are we going to go to the next step? Where we are just Americans and in our country. When does that happen? So you're gonna wait for what? The white person to do what? There's no answer. So every time I say this, there is literally no answer. It's just like, it's just the way it is in this country. It's a racist country, and you know, I'm like, there's racists in the country, but you cannot tell me what we have achieved as black people. Many black people have achieved. You know that. Somehow this country is profoundly racist. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make any sense anymore to do that. So the question is, how long are we supposed to talk about the oppression thing? And so sitting on that, you usher in Disney,
who's really just trying to make money off of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's
starting from the youth. So now they're starting, this guy was older, probably my age, right? In the 40s or whatever. And I'm like, sir, you're in your 40s and you're still thinking this way. Now they've just started a brand new age group of people to come in and start thinking they're oppressed too. So when is it gonna end? When are we gonna stop making black people believe that they are oppressed victims that, you know, they didn't get a head start or whatever they say, you know, all these things that they say. I mean, how about you just go make something of yourself? How about that? How about you go make something of yourself? And stop waiting for the white man to give you all the things.
And also just the whole, it's like we're getting to a point where we're just kind of arrogant on the way we talk. And you know, the pendulum swings both ways. Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be a point when we swing this way and people are sick of us. Right. You know what I mean? Like, people are going to get sick of never being able to satisfy us. Right. You know what I mean? Where even these white people who sort of run cover for us all the time, and the allies. Eventually, they are going to get sick of it too. Yeah. And they're going to be like, you can't, you can't ever please these people. You know what I mean? And I'm just tired of it. That's how they're going to be. And I can see it happening already. I can see a lot. If you go on YouTube, you can see a lot of white people who aren't racist people. Yeah. They're just tired. They're tired of every day. They're tired of every day having to feel bad about being white. And they can't help it. That's who they are. You know what I mean? But you let someone say white pride, and we already know what white pride looks like. Yeah. It wasn't fun for black people. Yeah, right. But now we're walking around acting a little bit like they are. Yeah, a lot like they are. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, you can't put white people down and just by racist. That's racist. Why? Because they have an opinion. Yeah. People have the right to have an opinion. And you can't just think that every last thing, and this is what bothers me about this, because it's targeted towards kids. It takes away their self-responsibility, because if they think that all they have to do is walk around saying slaves built this country, that means that they don't have to take responsibility for themselves at all. Right. And I fear that for the next generation, because where are we going to, because this happened to white kids too, what are we going to do when this victim class, where these people, call me, them, they, call me, you know what I mean? Everybody wants to get on the victim train, you know what I mean? And what happens when we just have a generation full of victims of all races, all sexualities, and whether you're a man or a woman, and what do we do when that is just what we are? Right. When everybody's calling themselves pride, white pride, gay pride, black pride, you know what I mean? When do we just
be
stop?
Americans? Just be American.
And affirmative action is a form of reparation.
It is,
because it put us into the middle class. A lot of people who wouldn't have been there were there because they got hired because they were black.
Well, because the idea of reparations is to provide you with money, right, to put you in a position to get the things that you are owed, right? So affirmative action is putting you in the position
to succeed.
It ushering you into a business
or college or
whatever to put you in the position to succeed. Is that not reparations? There's the opportunity,
and a lot of people did succeed off that. You know what I mean? You know, look, I just think that a lot of this complaining is going to hurt us later.
And then can we not, with the video though, can we not see enough of the stereotypes in this video? The stereotype, the angry black people, the stereotypical, quintessential, what they believe the black person looks like, is all in this video. Then they got the stereotypical now, effeminate black male in the corner making his debut every once in a while the other masculine, loudmouth black girls,
and then that one white liberal girl.
It's like, come on, this is.
If you don't see that people are making money off our stupidity sometimes, I mean, you know, it's like we have got to wake up. And I don't mean be woke. I mean wake up. It's going. I get this feeling that it's going to hurt us.
It is.
And when this country starts to crumble to something nobody likes, they're going to blame it all on white people. And I know that's what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
And they're using us as a test.
They're
using us as the test to see what they can get away with.
All of this, you know, lift every voice. At the Super Bowl, it's just like.
That made me cringe. That made me cringe.
It did because I grew up with that. You know, Danielle and I went to a preschool that was black preschool. You know what I mean? And it was like one of those preschools where for a lot of single moms they could drop their kids off and they took you to school. They took you to the school and brought you back to this place. So once you got older, you went to the school. You left that place, but then you came back.
It's like it's like extended daycare.
And we went to that. You know what I mean? And Lift Every Voice was a part of
it was like the black national anthem. I guess
and so we grew up on that. But I don't think it's appropriate for the Super Bowl.
I don't either.
Because when you're talking about other people when you're talking about black colleges, fine. If you're talking about the BET Awards, all right. You know what I mean? But when you're talking about other people in the room,
like why do you have to do that?
Why do we get one? What about Asians? What are we gonna have a gay pride song? And we're gonna have an Asian song and a Latino song? Because it's just like. You know, it's just like we have an anthem.
And the reason why Asians, Latinos, and all stuff don't do this, do what black people are doing, is because they are Americans and they identify as Americans.
Which, by the way, Asian Americans are the richest people in this country.
They are
not white people,
and they don't have any representation in politics. Asians don't have representation in politics.
Very much. They don't
representation. Period. No, they just make it
right. You know what I mean? It's just like they have the least, amount of people in politics representing them.
Right.
We have a lot of black people in politics. You know what I mean? And so
we've had a black president. 2 terms.
You know, and so it's just like Asian Americans are the richest people in this country than white people. You know what I mean? But, you know, if you look at the family dynamic of those two groups, they're the ones that have the most intact families. And their focus on education and academics is very high. So they believe in the nuclear family so much so they don't want to disrupt it. And their belief is that if that family is intact and you push your kids to go to college or just achieve in some way, but achieve. The option, there is no option underneath that. It's achieved. And we know that for a fact. We work for Asian Americans. So
yes.
I can say the thing that matters most to them is family and education.
Yep, they don't
play.
It's amazing watching it though, because I don't see that within the black culture. So, because we work with Asians, it's interesting to see, because they put family first, they create riches. They
quickly.
create,
I was watching this one thing where this lady was talking about how it was a Chinese food restaurant, and she was talking about how they remember she said, well, some of us come over here and then we all live in a house together, and then we buy this one, and we're the only ones who make Chinese food well. Because people won't go to American Chinese. They'll only go to people who make Asian food.
Yeah.
So they make it, and she's like, and then we
they have
we make money off that. We pull our money together and we get another location.
Yeah.
And then some family members work there. And then we pull another location.
The community comes together whether you know each other or not. If you hear there's a new Asian family in that Asian area, then they'll go and help out their fellow Asian with money. It's essentially like a bank. They kind of work like within their own unofficial bank. Where they just kind of help the new person coming in, and all the money goes to there. And then before you know it, everyone has a business, and everyone's thriving, striving, and getting rich. And then it's the same thing. They veer off into other parts of other revenue, other ways, other streams of income. They find different businesses to get into.
Family to me is wealth. That's just how I see it. If you can get a nuclear family and have a mother and a father, and you don't even got to be rich, but if you have a mother and a father, and you guys live in a household where your father is the head of the house, the mother is the nurturer of the house, you make sure your kids are eating, you make sure they go to school on time, you make sure they come home, they have some sort of extracurricular activity, you look over their homework, your kids can be really successful because they have values, they have discipline, and that's the point. You know what I mean?
That's what I was saying before, is that I don't think if I can get in the head of a slave right now that's looking down on all, looking at us and seeing what we're doing, I would think that the last thing they would be thinking about is a reparation. I would think that they will be wanting us to make sure that we are sticking together, one, and make sure that we are keeping our nuclear family together, because that in itself is already going to put you in the position. Community is quintessential, I think, in making wealth, money wealth. Because if you stick with your community, if you teach your children the right way, if they are healthy and happy and go out there into the world and want to thrive and strive to do great, they will become rich anyway. So the last thing they will be thinking about is reparations. The first thing they're going to be thinking about is keep the community together, keep the family together, get out there and make some money, get out there and get educated, get out there and make sure you're doing these things, because with that, you don't need no reparations.
And you also can't and this is the whole breakdown of the family thing, is because you can't make people buy into this stuff when they feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
When people feel like they've accomplished something in their life, they don't tend to veer off into victimhood.
Right.
That's why it's important to have goals and then do them, because it makes you feel good about yourself. It makes you feel like you can do things. It makes you feel like like you can achieve. And that's the point. When you have a family structure that's intact, you are more likely to be successful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you don't need a reparation to really get you there. That's why, all these successful black people that are telling you that you're oppressed, they didn't need a reparation to be successful. They just needed to work hard.
And by the way, when you are able to own your own, or I don't even care how you do it, or even if you're in corporate, you work for somebody, it doesn't matter. It's what they're going to give you reparations. You're probably going to make. If you thrive and strive, you're probably going to make more than what the government's going to give you anyways.
Yeah.
So focusing on that is just silly to me. I don't understand. It's just kind of silly to me.
Anytime the government gets its hands in our personal lives, it never works out anyway.
Yeah, they cut that
stuff. It really
just
doesn't.
They make sure.
Because they're never going to give you anything without getting something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? True. And that's just the truth. You know what I mean? So it's just like if you don't have any kind of self-responsibility, you are doomed.
The whole thing is around slaves built this country.
You say things like that, it makes it look like everybody who was black in America, first of all, everybody in black wasn't a slave. Not even everybody that was black in the South wasn't slave. There were emancipated people. So there were slave owners who free, but there were just freed blacks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in the North there wasn't slavery. So so it's just like they make it seem like everybody who was black was a slave. And that just isn't true.
It's not true.
There are people here today who never had family members who ever were part of slavery. So do they get reparations? How about the black people that had slave owners as family members?
Yeah, what about them?
Do they get reparations? You know what I mean? It's just like you have to understand, it's black people who came from black slave owners. Do their descendants get reparations? How far are we going to look into this, and how long does that take? Right.
So that's going to take long enough for them not to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just a bunch of malarkey, and this cartoon or whatever, this indoctrination that starter for young kids, this is the worst thing and the most irresponsible thing I think I've seen in a while, because they're purposefully targeting children, black children, and they're trying to get in their heads to let you know that from this point on, you are a victim, and your people were victims, and now you're going to have to operate now in the victim mentality. You have to operate in the victim mentality. So they made it cute, funny, they made it sassy. Of course, you know, black people gotta be sassy girls, you know, and so that makes it cute. And so kids absorb that. Kids question a lot too, but they absorb. And then they just, if it's not stopped, they'll just go on not thinking for themselves.
Yeah, and I love what I wish we had that clip of or maybe we can find it, but that clip of Condoleezza Rice talking on The View.
I put that on before. I can find it. Yeah,
and she made a good point. She said exactly how I feel.
Let me be very clear. I grew up in segregated Birmingham, Alabama. I couldn't go to a movie theater or to a restaurant with my parents. I went to segregated schools till we moved to Denver. My parents never thought I was going to grow up in a world without prejudice, but they also told me that's somebody else's problem, not yours. You're going to overcome it, and you are going to be anything you want to be. And that's the message that I think we ought to be sending to kids. One of the worries that I have about the way that we're talking about race is that it either seems so big that somehow white people now have to feel guilty for everything that happened in the past. I don't think that's very productive. Or black people have to feel disempowered by race. I would like black kids to be completely empowered, to know that they are beautiful in their blackness. But in order to do that, I don't have to make white kids feel bad for being white.
You know what I mean? We should not be making black kids feel like victims, and we should be making white kids feel bad about being white.
That was about the CRT.
It was about that, right?
Yeah,
I think we can talk about history and still maintain the you know, the esteem of everybody.
And again,
because nobody is blameless here.
No,
nobody. And we have to talk about that. But if we're not going to talk about that, then don't sit here and make up stuff where it just, you know, the only people that were oppressive were white people. You make it seem like slavery, like, what's his name? Bill Maher. He even made a good point.
Yeah.
He said slavery in our past was not it was a rule.
Right.
It was not the exception.
Right.
Almost everybody in this world, race-wise, was a slave. At some point in this world, we've all been enslaved. It was the rule. It was not the exception.
It was a way of life. It was a normal thing.
But the West was the first to outlaw it.
Yeah.
In its entirety, you know what I mean? And even now, where slavery is still happening, it's in black and brown countries.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you could say about human trafficking and stuff like that, because that is a form of slavery. You know, I do agree with that. But I'm just saying, like, we have to be able to talk about it in a way where it's the truth. We can't just sit back and just make it seem like if you had dark skin, you were under the whip. That's just not true.
Right, it's not true.
You know what I mean? That just isn't a fact.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of black people could read in those days.
Yeah.
A lot of black people had, you know, we don't want to talk about those things. You know what I mean? And so even in Reconstruction and into Jim Crow, black people were going the right way. They were getting education. They were learning how to plant themselves where they are. And, you know, Booker T. Washington, his book From Slavery, he was teaching people to bloom where you are.
Yeah.
You don't need to, we're not going back there to Africa. That's not even our culture anymore. So it's just like we need to establish ourselves in America, use capitalism to our advantage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I agree with that.
All right, you guys. Well, let us know what you think about all this. Let us know what you think about that Disney. What is it called? The Proud Family. We'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Do you think it's right? Do you think it's wrong? Do you see that do you think it's like poisoning kids' brains? Let us know. Leave the comments below. We'd love to hear what you have to say. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And that's it. We will see you guys in the next video.